Globalization did not cause global poverty, but it did make us more aware of it. And by creating a single global market, it raised the question of how that market benefits the world's poorest nations.
We are seeing around the world a movement towards greater reliance on markets, greater confidence in markets. But for that confidence to last, it has to be seen that these markets are fair, that they are delivering the benefits widely, that people are benefiting from them. And if they don't have that kind of legitimacy, then the confidence is not going to remain, and the markets will be vulnerable to disruption and being replaced by other kinds of controls. So every day the market has to earn and prove its legitimacy. And that's a big test, particularly in the developing world, where the number one issue is the issue of poverty. And that, more than anything else, is what these markets will be judged by.
The world is more unequal than at any time in world history. There's a basic reason for that, which is that 200 years ago, everybody was poor. A relatively small part of the world achieved what economists call modern economic growth. Those countries represent only about 1/6 of humanity, and 5/6 of humanity is what we call the developing world. It's the vast majority of the world. The gap can be 100 to 1 in some cases, maybe a gap of $30,000 per person and $300 per person. That's absolutely astounding, to be on the same planet and to have that extreme variation in material well-being.
The problem that's happened over these last years is that somehow or other people who are capitalists in countries like the United States consider that the real interlocutors are rich people from developing countries. So they've been touching the wrong constituency. The constituency of capitalism has always been poor people that are outside the system. Capitalism is essentially a tool for poor people to prosper.
Hernando de Soto is one of the most original economists in the developing world. An advisor to Mexico, Peru, Egypt, and other countries, he seeks to cut through the old debate about wealth and poverty and reinvent capitalism in the name of the poor.
Hernando de Soto has been called the most important economist in the third world. He's a champion of market economics and property rights in Latin America. His new book, The Mystery of Capital, he talks about the question of why capitalism triumphs in the West and fails everywhere else. Welcome.
The important thing about a capitalist system is that it's a system of representations. When I go to the United States, people ask me for my identity, and I say, my identity is me. I mean, look at my face. I am Hernando de Soto. But the man at U.S. Immigration just says, look, give me your passport. The reason that things travel so well in the market economy of the United States and values travel from one place to another is because they all have passports. And the real value is like my identity. It's not in me. It's in my passport. Real value to pay the hotel room is not in me. It's in the credit card. And so what happens is that this system by representation requires, of course, that all these representations, the credit cards, the passports, the IDs, the property titles, and the shares be organized by a system of law that allows people to be able to trust what they're dealing with.
In September 2000, De Soto published his explanation of why capitalism hasn't worked for the poor. He took his message directly to some of Latin America's most remote regions.
The reason I'm going to Cajamarca now is because 12 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, And 11 years after Peru adopted pro-market policies, their situation hasn't gotten that much better. And they want to know why. The Mystery of Capital offers an explanation. It says that the system per se works in the West, but that in our country, like in much of the third world, it isn't functioning because we have missed some of the crucial elements that the Westerners had in the 18th and 19th century, like property rights, without which the system cannot function.
De Soto's book had become the #1 bestseller in Peru's history.
El sistema legal no solamente es útil para vincularnos en el Perú, ya no podemos en el Perú, entonces no en el Perú, sino en
And in
otros
poor neighborhoods across the country, this economist had become a celebrity. De Soto believes that people are capitalists by nature, but that in the developing world, most are locked out of the capitalist system.
Peru, like in every other developing and former communist nations, people on the ground, with or without a property law, have basically agreed on the distribution of assets among themselves. You go to any of the places we've been to, the hinterland of Egypt, of the Philippines, of Haiti, where there is no official law that is actually in place or being enforced, but there is another law in place. You step on somebody's territory and somebody comes up and says, get off my territory, whether there's a law or no law. You walk down the street and you walk into a garden and the dog starts barking, and you start finding out that that dog is defending a consensually agreed determination of possession rights throughout a certain area. So there are property systems in place. The important thing is that they're illegal. They're extra legal, to be more precise.